Just fix it in post.
Okay, this is a career.
Things like creative directors and approach.
Wow. Fucking A. I am absolutely there.
Clients wanting more for less.
Dude.
This mix of creativity and technology.
Tweet heard around the world. People were freaking out.
Welcome to Just Fix It in Post. Industry insights straight from the source. I'm your host, Sean Rice, and welcome.
She's mastered the art of capturing stories on wheels, wings, and yes, even in onion fields. Based in the heart of the UK, she's carved out a niche documenting the beauty of cars, motorbikes, and the people who love them, all while juggling an impressive portfolio of clients like Jaguar, Land Rover, BMW, and Goodwood. She's a new mother, and when she's not behind the lens, you might catch her co-hosting the Driven podcast or overseeing classic Jaguar restorations with her husband. Please welcome the endlessly adventurous, multi-talented Amy Sure.
Thank you so much for carving out time, because I know as a new mom, not that I would know that I'm a new mom, but as someone who's a parent, it's quite time consuming. So congratulations on the new kid.
Thank you very much. Man alive. I thought that, having a kid, especially when I first had a baby, I thought a newborn baby, apparently they sleep all the time. I'll be able to do loads of work, catch up with emails. They'll sleep for like hours because that's apparently what they do. Absolutely not. I think I've managed to do like 5 emails at a time since he was born, and that was it. So yeah, it's mad. So no, thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. How long? When was your? How old is the little one?
My son is now 6 months, just over 6 months. He was born in September. So the last official shoot I did was the big event, the Goodwood revival, and I gave birth 10 days later. So it was I was heavy.
Wow,
So,
you're committed. 10.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Oh, congratulations. I mean, that's amazing.
Thank you.
It's one thing to do what we do, but then be able to do that on top of being pregnant. Impressive. Very impressive.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's I was about 2 stone heavier, so yeah, I'm quite happy with myself as well.
That too. I mean, you're winning all around at this point. So I guess we'll go all the way back to the beginning. Well, basically, I kind of discovered you on Instagram for myself around, I believe, like around the 2014, 2015 realm.
Long time then.
Of imagery. Yeah. Over about almost about 10 years ago, a little bit over 10 years. And it was one of those things where you see someone's work and then you look at your name and I'm like, Amy, that's crazy. So like back then, I know a lot of women in our industry now, but back then I didn't know anyone. And it was so cool as someone who grew up, with 2 sisters, I have 2 daughters now, to just be in a position where you see someone like you thriving. And it wasn't like you had changed anything about the way you were doing you. And I actually scrolled all the way back to some of your first posts on Instagram and I was like, holy shit. It's funny because I feel like the entire industry has spent this entire time going through a trend and is trended all the way kind of like into what you do a little bit of your look. And then it's kind of like kept part of it with what it does. I mean, you haven't really changed the way your photography is since you've started, have you? Maybe you can speak to that.
Yeah, not particularly. So when I first started shooting, it was mainly weddings and people photography. And the style I kind of shot then is one that I liked for a very long time from other people's work. Again, it is heavily based from the wedding industry. And it was only kind of falling into the cars. And I thought, either I don't know other car photographers that are doing kind of the editing, the shooting, the way that I'm doing it at the minute, or no one's really doing it. Maybe a bit of both. I don't really know. And then, but I just kind of started shooting cars how I shot people. And it's stayed like that ever since. I've changed very, very little amount, not very much at all. Probably just to test more than anything and kind of sharpen up for what I think is a bit of a cleaner look. But no, over the years, I've tried kind of changing ever so slightly. And then I've realized I don't like my work and I've gone back again. So it's it's only ever been very minimal changes. But no, it's great because I'm now known for my style. But it does also mean that I can't change from the style because I'm known for the style and people like hire me for that style. And so or don't hire me for the style, and usually that's also okay. So I've kind of sat myself in this nice little kind of process of what works. And so far it's going all right.
So how did you get into photography? What was kind of the first, I mean, I know you mentioned wedding photography. Where's kind of, where did it start for you? How did it evolve? Maybe you can kind of walk me through everything.
Yeah, sure. So I have always, my dad has always been very creative. I'm currently recording this at my parents' house, and then like next to me I've got some art of his artwork that he does, and he used to be a spray painter of cars, like but classic sports cars basically. So that's kind of that, but he's also very artistic, and he taught me how to see light. So we'd be on holiday, for example, and we walk down the street, and I've got a really vivid memory that I talk about where he, like the sun was just kind of setting, and the way that the sun was glinting off the windows, and then the reflection was on the road, and he just said, "Oh, isn't that light nice?" And then there was a couple of moments over kind of my childhood, teenage years where he would do things like that and just basically point light out to me, and then that made me start appreciating light. And then I realized that I could get a camera and photograph it, and suddenly I had created something that I thought was quite nice instantaneously. And I mean, I went to university to study silversmithing actually and jewelry design, but I was terrible at it. So I've always been creative, but not particularly in photography. I never thought you could be a photographer full time. I always thought you had to be supported either by another job or another person. So I never pursued it. And then, my dad basically started shooting, or had always shot weddings, like cash in hand, over like 2 a year or something like that for friends of friends. And I just thought this would be the way that I would end up making a bit of extra pocket money and doing it on the side of a normal job. So I started doing some of those with him when I was like 16 years old. And then as we kind of started working together, I was like, "Dad, these are really long days and you are not charging enough money for this." I know you don't do it like all the time, but he was charging like £200 for a whole day. And I was like, "Dad, come on, even cheap wedding photographers charge more than that. So let me do the talking next time, and then we'll get this a bit more, a few more pennies." And that's kind of how it started. Then as I went over through my school, through university, I just started doing more weddings, got a better camera, met a friend that also did wedding photography, and we kind of like teamed up, and I still did some bits with my dad, but in the end it ended up just being me and my friend that ended up doing wedding photography quite a lot actually. By the time I stopped doing weddings, which is probably 2015 is the point where I really stopped doing weddings. I think we were doing like 25 a year, which was enough. I wouldn't have wanted to do any more than that anyway. But yeah, that was it. So basically that's how I got into the photography side, because of my dad. My mum and dad bought me my first camera when I was 16, my 16th birthday, which I still have, which is literally upstairs in my bedroom right now. And yeah, it's something I just kind of ran with as a hobby, and then somehow managed to make it into a career. And I don't really know how, but I keep going with it. so it's,
I mean, that's incredible. I mean, it's amazing. It's hard enough to become a successful wedding photographer, and then to be able to leverage that to kind of take off into another realm of photography is even better. So how did you stumble into automotive, and then how did it kind of become your forte?
So the people that my dad used to work for doing the classic sports car restoration, they built 25 years later a replica Ferrari P4, and they are in Wilson Engineering, they're called, and they basically said, we've built this amazing car. They asked my dad first, could you take some photographs of the car just for our reference and for the customer? And then my dad just said, well, Amy's just bought this new camera, which is quite swanky. It was my first full frame camera. And basically he said, well, why don't you come over and shoot this car? And I thought, well, okay. I don't know what I'm doing, but okay. So that is the kind of my first avenue into automotive photography. But at the same time, literally maybe 3 weeks later, my dad said, well, why don't you come to the Goodwood revival with me? And which is this, if anybody doesn't know what it is, it's one of the best classic automotive shows in the world, because it's at about 300 cars, I think it is, go racing at that weekend. And these are proper classic cars. So, some of them worth many of them worth hundreds of thousands, nearly all of them worth, actually not all of them, a lot of them worth hundreds of thousands of pounds, some of them millions of pounds. And they race, and they race properly. They crash. The people have got really hurt, and it's an incredible weekend. But the spectators and everybody, the staff, the drivers, 100,000 people dress up in period clothing, so from the 50s and 60s. And so you feel like you've walked back in time with all these classic cars, classic clothing. Everybody looks fantastic. And so from a photographic point of view, from an atmospheric point of view, it's really interesting to photograph. And he said, well, why don't you come along to this? And yeah, we'll just kind of have a nice weekend, take some photographs and enjoy it. So I did. I sent those photographs to Goodwood over a Facebook message, and 3 months later they saw it and then said, "Hey, we like your work. Do you want to come and work with it for us for our next event?" And then that was 2014. I started working for them March 2014, and I've shot at least one event for them every year ever since. So I meant to be there this weekend, but I had to cancel on them because I'm going to the Formula One instead. So, which I've been invited to.
If you're going to cancel for any reason, that's usually a pretty good one.
Well, that was it, because I adore working for Goodwood. So I did say I'm very, very sorry, but I've been invited to go to the Formula One in Bahrain, so I'm going to do that instead.
I mean, that's incredible. Wow.
Yeah. But no, that's how I started photography.
So around 2014. So then what kind of work have you been doing since then?
A lot of what I shoot is primarily, because of my background of weddings, I guess, is people-orientated photography. So automotive photography. There's a lot of words in that sentence. It's basically anything to do with events, road trips, people profiles, something like that. So I get hired to a lot of road trips. Last week I was in Scotland for 2 days with Bentley, because they had basically a group of people do some whiskey tasting at the whiskey distillery that they're collaborating with. And then we drove from Scotland back to the factory in Crewe, which was an 8-hour drive. And so they also wanted to have photographs of people having a lovely time and cars on this lovely route. I was actually a guest, so I wasn't even the official photographer. I was actually a guest, but that's the kind of thing that I end up getting hired for. It's anything to do with people and stories. There's a magazine that's publishing a shoot I did last year. This month I think it is, called Octane magazine. And that trip was a guy, basically, is quite a wealthy chap who has 15 Porsches, and they're all white and they're all fantastic, and they're all classic to fairly modern. And he invited a few of his friends over to Greece, and we drove around for a week, these white Porsches, and just absolutely howled around the roads, had some amazing food and wine, and I just had a really lovely time. And I just documented it, and then it's now being written about in this magazine. So yeah, a lot of things like that, basically, which mean I have the most amazing job and some of the most amazing experiences. And yeah, I don't think I've ever stepped into a car studio, photography car studio in my life. And I'm kind of okay with that. It's all on location.
You're not missing much. There's a lot of sitting around, a lot of waiting, hurry up and waiting. So, you're kind of doing it right. When you get a project, what's kind of the brief that you get when like you'd mentioned, like with Formula One, like how did that kind of come up, and what's your process for getting ready for that?
Well, the Formula One is I'm a guest for that one. So that is a customer of ours, of the workshop, has said, do you want to come along to have a nice time, basically? So I'm not even having to officially shoot that. But right. If I was doing something like an event, or, thinking about some briefs I've got coming up, the customer would say anything between, we have this set shot list that we really want to make sure we're nailing for whatever reason. They might be hiring me in to kind of replace their website photography, in which case they need to make sure they've got a photograph for, and if it's a workshop, it'd be like their servicing department or their contact page, or what things that have got some visual representation of what they know the images are going to go to. Alternatively, the best briefs that I get are basically show up, do you, and then just give some photographs afterwards, which is my absolute favorite ever. So a lot of people are kind of somewhere in between. So if I work for Goodwood, for example, they will say, okay, do what you need, but we do kind of need this, and this covering. And that might be, a certain race or something that's going on around the site, or something that's not even car related. So it's kind of a bit of both. And if it's a road trip, we'll kind of, anything between, I'll just document what's going on, or they'll just say, okay, we need to make sure we've got a bit of this and a bit of this, and it's some panning shots of some dynamic shots of cars coming up the road, or guests having a nice time, things like that. Really, it's mainly the briefs mainly around the people side of things. The cars, I kind of get to do what I want, which is quite good fun. It's usually free.
So you're getting hired usually client direct, or is there like a middle agency that's going through, or a PR agency?
So if I'm doing editorial work, it's usually client direct to me, or whatever agency is looking after the client, I'll just manage it all. If it's anything commercial, I've got an agency called Academy, Academy Films, and they look after me commercially, mainly because I'm a terrible businesswoman and I never charge myself out well enough. So especially when it comes to commercial work, for years I have severely undersold myself. So when they approached me and said, would you like to be repped? And I said, oh, that scares me, because I love the control that I have over my life, my who I work for. I've got really good relationships with a lot of my clients. I don't want to let that go. And they said, well, no worries. If it comes to editorial, don't worry about it. But what about commercial? And I said, absolutely. So I've been with them now for about 5 years. And so they do all my big scary stuff, and get me the big scary jobs. But it's they're not as much what I enjoy doing, and I don't do too many big commercial jobs, primarily because I don't think my work suits big commercial, especially cars. It doesn't. It's too soft and squidgy and romantic, and most people who have got the big budgets to be able to spend on commercial car photography are not, that they're going to be modern sports cars, or cars generally, and if you want to be able to see all the like darkness in the wheel arches or whatever it is, and it's fine, but it's not how I work. So it's I get some. I did a big shoot for BMW and Mini fairly recently, which all would involve people as well. So again, it's anything that involves more people in it. So it's mainly portrait shoots with cars somewhere in there, which was really good fun actually. I enjoyed it. That's kind of the kind of balance of my work.
So the work that you've been doing in the last, say, I don't know, 2-3 years, has it changed from what it was a year or two ago to what it is now, like the ask? Or has it kind of been just you come and do you?
It's mainly been you come and do you, which is really nice, because I think people kind of hire me for what they hope I'll produce, rather than them knowing exactly what they want. So I'm working with a company at the moment that's makes like light bulbs and tools for workshops and cars and stuff like that. So not even a car involved. I probably won't put any of this on my social media or anything, because it's not for me particularly interesting. But that company have said, we really need to get this, and this, and this. And they've been quite specific on what they want. But then they've ended it with, but we trust you, do what you need to do. So I'm like, okay, that tells me you're not entirely sure what you want, but I'll make it work. And so a lot of the times, especially when it comes down to more smaller businesses and kind of smaller rallies or something like that, these people haven't got huge budgets. So I'm expensive. So they want to make sure that they feel that they have let me know exactly what they want, but they also don't really know what they want. So I'm also trying to make sure that I'm giving them the best.
That is literally the epitome of a client. We don't have much money, but
I want
to tell you what we want. But we don't know what we want. But we do. We're going to be really specific. As soon as we do know, but it's going to change. Even when you're there shooting, we're probably going to change our minds for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly. So it's whatever when it comes down to photography. I think it's the same in every element of area of photography. But generally, I think I've never, touch wood, had an unhappy client or anyone, apart from I had one wedding, and that made me quit weddings because there was nothing wrong with the pictures.
Yeah, weddings do that, by the way.
Yeah,
they don't.
It was the point where I realized that I had to tell the bride, basically, I was like, it's not my fault that you don't like the way that you look, and it's a very difficult, fine. It sounds quite nasty to say sometimes, but it's like, I knew from my own wedding photos, I thought, well, I know that however fantastic my photographer is, I still look like me. And if I'm not happy with that in the mirror, then, or I'm only happy at like one angle or whatever, then I just need to be chill. And so, yeah, there's pictures of me laughing goofily and I look like a thumb. So but I mean, that's how I look when I laugh goofily, like a thumb. So it's, yeah, you have to be accepting of that. And, yeah, I suppose that's the same with like event photography and stuff. I did an event last year where, there was quite a severe crash at the beginning of the event, to the point where police were called and an investigation had to happen. So quite serious. But it meant the whole event got shut down, but they still tried to do like almost like a show so that there was something going on. So obviously I couldn't produce any more than what was going on. So, I mean, they were totally understandable that they were never going to get the photographs that they envisioned themselves. But then they asked me back this year as well. So even though they didn't get what they wanted because we couldn't really do it, they were still happy with the work that I produced, and now I'm going again this year. So, yeah, I've gone off on a tangent from your question. I'm very sorry.
Oh, no, it's totally fine. So with the work that you're doing, how much of it has spread outside of Europe? So have American agencies reached out or hired you for projects or to shoot campaigns?
Yes, yeah. So one of my biggest campaigns that I first did was for Lexus in LA, and then that was, oh my goodness, that was the most scared I've ever been going to a shoot. I was on the airplane just basically thinking, this is fine. So it was, I was really scared. But again, I worked with them and they were really happy with the way that I shot, and they hired me again about a year or two later. But yeah, it's a lot of it is UK based, or at least Europe based, because the UK has got such a massive automotive and classic car industry. I think the classic car industry in the UK is bigger than the fishing industry, and I mean we're an island, so we've got quite a big fishing industry as well. And that's just the classic cars, not even the modern stuff. So I'd probably say that 80% is Europe generally. So probably most of it being UK, a lot of it being France, Switzerland, Italy, Germany probably as well. A lot of road trips in Portugal as well, that goes on as well. And then, yeah, less so in the US, mainly I think because there are so many superb US photographers that I'm quite a big cost to then fly out, shoot, and then go back again, I guess, for most people. And again, when it comes down to the big commercial stuff where people could afford to do it, my work may or may not suit for what the brand might be. So I've worked a couple of times out there with Haggerty, who are an insurance brand, but they have a magazine which is fantastic. So I've done quite a bit for them. Or if the event is in the US, such as Monterey Car Week, then I'll end up going out there because, well, the event is there, and that's where like Europe moves over to the US to go to Monterey Car Week in my little classic car world. But yeah, apart from that, yeah, I mean, a handful of times to do various shoots. Like I did a great shoot with Jaguar Land Rover, where they wanted to get some shots of their experience of off-roading. So if you go to Moab in Utah, you can do their off-roading thing for however long, and it's wicked. It's so much fun. So they needed some shots of that, and they wanted it to all look the same with other shots of what they've had. I did some I shot their ice racing stuff in Sweden. So they were like, okay, well, we'll send you out there as well, to Utah to get some shots as well, so that you've got, it all looks the same across our website, basically. So yeah, there's things like that. It depends on what the thing is and how much money the client's got, basically.
You'd be surprised to find out that a majority of the photographers that it seems like are getting hired for work in America aren't actually American.
Oh, are they not? Oh, I'm just crap then.
Anton Watts Anton Watts is Australian. He might be American now.
Mm-hmm.
Patch Courtet, French. You have Per Dejean, I think Swedish, not American.
I think it's all automotive photographers.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I think it's a lot of it for me is basically I don't think my work necessarily suits commercial work, and I'm cool with that because I don't particularly like shooting commercial work. I find it so, I mean, I'm not a materialistic person. I would much rather work harder doing some of the most amazing experiences that I've had. I could stop my job now and feel so happy with the experience that I've had over life. But, none of them are I mean, they're well paid enough that I can have a normal life and career, but it's not like I'm not interested particularly in the 20, 30, 50, 100,000 pounds, dollars shoots, because I find them quite boring to do. I'm stood there with a camera on a tripod, tethered up to a laptop where an art director will tell me how to shoot something, then the client will tell me how to do something, and then the assistant of the client will tell me how to shoot something, and then I show up and press a button. And I just think, well, that's been not my entire experience. I've had some more
totally
positive
Hollywood.
experiences.
That's the way you're supposed to do it. You didn't know that? You're supposed to sit in the motorhome until you're called, and you're supposed to be late, and you're supposed to complain about something, and then make them change it, go back in the motorhome. So when you shot for Lexus, were you doing your style, or was it something where they had specific things that they wanted you to do, and then you would execute that?
So Lexus had, they were pretty cool. They liked my style. So we did half and half. So I had freedom, but at the same time, they had kind of direction that they knew they wanted. So I felt, it was also my first experience shooting commercial. This must have been like 2015 or something like that. It was a long time ago now. Basically that was, for me, felt like a nice half and half. And so if I do commercial work now with people, that is the aim I get, at least, is some form of half and half. So I've got some form of freedom. I work for I'm not going to say the brand because I don't want to slag them off, but another brand of a US automotive brand. And they showed up with a cardboard cutout of the machine, and then that was placed in the location that they had chosen. They had set approved height for what the design was meant to be shown. My assistant set my camera up at the kind of everything that they thought was the right settings for what I might like, and then it was all chosen again by the art director, the client, and the assistants. And I literally thought, what on earth am I doing here? Like, I feel that none of what I am good at, what my skill in is being used at all. And it just, it really put me off working for commercial stuff, because I just felt such a lack of freedom. Because again, as I've already said, the shoots I adore are where I'm just told to go and do my thing and just go and have a nice time. And that is something that you can't necessarily do in commercial stuff, because they have such a need for very specific things. So I understand. Whereas editorial, I'm just a fly on the wall, and I get to shoot what I want. And a lot of my inspirations have been just street photography, and not necessarily photographers that I follow for years and know, but street photography generally is what I'm really drawn to. And there's just the general documentation of people's lives and what's going on. So yeah, to have my kind of camera tethered to a laptop is not the way that I like to work if I can help it.
A lot of commercial photographers last year kind of saw the industry go to sleep in terms of commercial work. Did that also happen for you?
It's every photographer I have spoken to has said the exact same thing, because I was thinking, God, is it something I'm doing wrong? Is there a social media blip now that's the algorithm's changed? I'm not going to be seeing, and that's the end of that. And then I would talk kind of slightly concerned to a lot of my colleagues in the automotive photography world, and all of them, not a single one, said, "Oh no, I'm fine." Every single one has said the exact same. So whether it was commercial work, whether it was editorial, it was all like flat. And I still don't really know why. So
I started this podcast and did some digging, and that was kind of the whole root of this entire, shindig. And through some of the research and the people that we've had on and the things that we've talked about, was the year before last, there was a bit of a strike in the commercial industry world, and people still had money to spend on budgets. So the advertising agencies went the content creator influencer route. There's agencies like Influential and Disrupt that have like 3 to 4 million content creators, some influencers, mainly content creators, and they're analyzing 100 billion data points daily. So they can track content that they create into a sale, dollar for dollar per client. So what happened was, with content creator influencer marketing, the return on the dollar for ad spend, they were getting anywhere from $13 to $18 per dollar of ad spend, which is astronomical compared to programmatic, which is like web banners, the stuff that we normally shoot for, streaming, things like that. They're looking at $1 to like $3.50 per dollar of ad spend. So
wow.
There was a massive, oh my God, we can push this button and just keep printing, because the economy got better and we were out of work. So there's this massive shift in where money was going. So basically the idea was that in the way that the digital camera made everybody a photographer, everybody who's on social media is now able to be an advertiser. And it's working. It doesn't matter how many followers you have. It's really about advertising to your friends, because your friends are then more inclined to buy products from you than they are from the polished commercial that we're doing. So there's this huge shift into, and they're calling it authenticity, right? They're saying that anybody, I could create stuff and tag products in it. I can sell stuff on Amazon, and that stuff's generating more revenue than the polished commercials. So much so that companies like Publicis Group that own Saatchi & Saatchi and a few other agencies have picked up and bought companies like Influential and Disrupt this year and last year. Because it's kind of become apparent that if they don't make these purchases and buy these advertising agencies, that the clients can then advertise products without them. They can connect to the consumer without having to go through an advertising agency, which has made them realize, without them, we don't exist. So Mazda actually, I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks back, actually released their first like content creator ad where it was, it's to one person. I call it one person, one product, one camera. And they're creating content and they're selling products. And because it seems like it's genuine and it's just a regular person selling products, other people are more interested in believing those people as to what they should buy, as opposed to the highly polished commercial that's more aspirational. I mean, even influencers to a certain level, like the Kardashian, level of influencer is kind of aspirational and not converting as much as having a bunch of people of a bunch of different demographics, a bunch of different age groups advertising different products. So with that said, I think your style lends itself more to being authentic, because it's more almost like a document. You're documenting what's going on with your particular look. Has your ask changed at all in terms of when you come to creating content? And then also, have you incorporated emotion aspect into what you do?
When I'm shooting cars generally?
Yeah, or any projects.
I suppose the emotional side has always been something I've got in my work. Again, coming from the weddings and stuff, it's the thing I'm interested in. It's if I do teaching, the thing I try to teach is how to get emotion into your work, because especially with cars, I find that cars are I find cars quite boring unless they've got a story behind them, or unless they're made to be emotional. The thing I'm interested in is the emotional side of cars, and that is why I find classic cars so exciting to shoot, because of the history they've had, the owners that people have had, had that car for however many years, the stories then which these cars are raced. And when you have a modern vehicle, there is no story. The story is having to be, as you've said, I know a friend who has got one and they're having a great time with it, or whatever. That is the only kind of a bit of a story you've got. I mean, I can understand, because I know I would see a billboard. I wouldn't buy from a billboard. I'd buy from a mate down the road that said that they've got this thing and it's really good, then they'll buy it. So I can see the shift in where your advertising money would go. I mean, I don't know if we're, as a community on social media, starting to become almost the same. I don't know how to word it. Like we kind of are clocking onto that, not consciously, but like kind of thinking, hey, this is another person trying to tell me another thing, and we're kind of getting a bit bored of seeing the same things over and over. And like, when you see like on TikTok these people who'd like try some food for the first time and they have acted like that, like, oh my god, it's the best thing ever, and it's so much. And I think that becomes a bit like, whoa, that's obviously not real. Like it's almost become too like, oh my god, this is amazing, you should buy this thing. And that I don't know if it's going to be a long lasting thing. I think there's going to have to be some form of level. I think it'll always be a constant thread of what's going to happen, but I think there's also going to be a need for more traditional kind of commercial photography to come back as well. Kind of in my car world, we talk about how electric cars are never going to be the be all and end all, and petrol and diesel are not going to be. It's going to be some mash in between of the outcome of kind of fuel as such. But I think the same with advertising. It's probably going to be something similar, where it'll be a mixture of content creators and photographers and trying to basically hit every aspect of the market. because and also I think it depends on how like the next generations feel that they want to buy from other people.
We're traveling into unknown territory. I feel like it's one of those things where, I'm currently, I've just kind of like stopped posting what work I do. It's kind of all over the place, whether I'm shooting for Toyota or, whether I'm doing car reveals for Car and Driver magazine, and it's one of those things where one of the people I had on was Lynn Woodward, right? So you know Lynn.
Lynn's fantastic. I know Lynn. She's great.
So and one of the conversations we had was basically, all of the issues that have kind of come up with, where things are going. Car review and storytelling about automotive is kind of going in this we need to sell cars phase. We look at these things and we critique these things based on what another cinematographer would do or what another car review company would do. And it came to the point where like the questions we need to be asking is like, if we're a viewer, why would we watch this video? One is for information about the car. Two is because we care about what the person that's reviewing the car is telling us about the vehicle and then their perspective on the two, and then why I should care. And so it came down to, let's make the tools to tell a story more about getting intimate and being able to portray the user POV of checking out a new car and telling that story of what you would benefit from with this vehicle and its accessories and what situations those accessories would be useful. Make B-roll, and have the rest of it be about storytelling. So, some of the places where we see people connecting with a lot of the content is stuff that's connecting with younger people. You're interested in Car and Driver because your father or your grandfather had an issue, or you saw a magazine or dentist's office. I said, and that no longer exists. You can't do that anymore. We have to now connect with people on a level that they're at. So get other people that are young, that are looking for a new car, talking about what are the new cool cars to drive or to have, or what's a good car to learn how to drive, and things like that that actually make sense and are useful, as opposed to something that you think another car magazine or reviewing company is going to try and steal from you if they got the idea before you did, like that type of stuff. With that information being said, if the ask were to change with the way that we create content, and obviously it became more of a dressed down, really kind of like storytelling aspect, almost like you talking about your process. BTS became almost more relevant than you taking the actual pictures. Is this something that you would change, or are you seeing changes in what you do, or trends that or your process particularly evolve?
I don't know how I do it. The only way I've seen people kind of do it well, because also like I'm quite not self-conscious, I suppose. Like the idea of being kind of photographed or filmed doing the job that I do would make me feel like weirded out slightly. Like I'm not. I feel uncomfortable doing it. I've seen other photographers like strap the cameras on their head and their chest and shoot like that. But again, I'm like, I don't want to be that person. Personally, that's a very personal thing. The people who do more of the kind of the behind the scenes of the way they're shooting do very well online. And I mean, they're nailing it. They're doing so well. But for me, if I'm walking up to, I don't know, a client of mine that I've had for years that might be a very important client of, either if in terms of wealth, the cars that they've got or something, if I walk up to them and I'm like, hello, how you doing? Sorry, excuse my camera crew, and the camera attached to my head and my chest. Like, I feel that is, from a personality point of view, the clients that I have, not a way that I'd like to portray myself, purely because it's going to get me more social media followers or likes or something like that. I feel that I've got enough of a foothold now with my clients and the type of clients that I have to be content in the work that I get. I think I could probably do some more kind of behind the scenes stuff and the change of how I do that, but it has to be quite specific, because also I'm thinking, well, how do I get behind the scenes stuff to show the process of working, for example, without having to physically hire somebody to do that for me, or have somebody follow me, like, I know my husband, or he's a busy man. He's got his own business to run. Like, it's, I suppose, the logistical side of things. I like to show up to a shoot, do what I do really well, and leave again. And to kind of have an additional element in of being like, let me try and get this behind the scenes stuff, or which is nice periodically, because also I've not got loads of photographs of me at work, for example, because it's just not a thing. But it's not something I think I'd want to do to purely for the likes and the views and stuff. But maybe I said earlier, I'm a terrible businesswoman. Maybe that's something I need to start doing. So I don't know. How do you feel about it?
I don't know. I think it's just a matter of trying and seeing what works and what doesn't work, and just constantly evolving. I'm not really one who's been, people are hiring me for my trend. It's been really kind of just the one-stop shop. I've been a composite artist all my life. Half my business is composite work. Half my business is shooting. Half my business is motion and editing. So I kind of do a lot of stuff. I was doing CGI for a while there too, and I finally was like, I just can't keep up on all of it. I just can't. So I'm okay with letting that go. But, in terms of trying new things, I think definitely in terms of exploring how my look or the way I create content in a way that is more user-friendly or engaging, I'm definitely open for it, as well as, I give it a really small example. I have there was a local donut shop. Basically, I took all the information that I've learned, and I was like, if I were to
Tell me about your donut shop.
If I were to target a specific consumer with content, with a message, like a problem solution or message, that type of thing, would it go viral? Would I be able to create, would I be able to put a face on a brand and connect a consumer with the product and generate traffic within that store? So there was a local donut shop that basically had a sign on the window that said, "We need your help, or it's bye, bye, bye." So I went there and I said, I can't give you money, but I can create videos for you. And so basically I did the talking head with the B-roll kind of story about this man and his 44-year-old, donut shop with his partner, and how that might go away and people would lose their memories if they didn't come to enjoy their donuts. And I shared it to Facebook groups, to Instagram, where the older demographic was. And it, took off, and they sold out every day until 9:00, and then, went on 3 different news stations and channels, and the local cover of the San Pedro Today magazine on, my story and what I did and all that type of stuff. So it was just really about, like, you tell the story to the right consumer that, and connect with them. And it wasn't like I was trying to manipulate anybody or do anything. It was just a matter of
telling the story.
Yeah, it was kind of like the idea of, well, maybe I could evolve this into putting a face on brands that are trying to connect with consumers to be authentic now, and what that would look like, So with that case study, it was like, all right, well, can I take this to a company that doesn't have a face and be able to tell their story in a way that consumers can connect with that and want or can relate to their brand? Because I really think products are a byproduct of a culture, and when you create a culture that people can exist within, enjoying that product is part of that culture. So they kind of help each other out. And I think with the authenticity play, that's kind of where it ends up going. But you are actually the master of social media in respects that, you've built an audience. You've been generating content for a long time consistently. And so, I think you've created a book in the last...
literally in December it came out. So it's a new thing.
Yeah. So you're doing books, you're creating content. So how is social media kind of evolved for you? And are you generating revenue from that, or is it still in a place where it's kind of just supporting the other things that you do?
It's more supporting photography that I do. So I call myself, I am a photographer, and then my sideline is I do some content creating, which creates some revenue, but it's not something I lean upon. It's, again, because it's not something, I feel that the people who seem to be doing really well on social media platforms, whatever that might be, are posting a lot. They are posting a lot of the stuff of themselves, or it's the kind of, again, all video stuff. And I think I could do bits, but I know that the thing that I am good at and the thing that I'm known for is my photography. So if Instagram algorithms, I don't know if it's still the case, but at one point they were saying, okay, well, we're not going to if any of it we're going to, is the word disfavor? I don't know. Anything that where you've got like moving images, static images, we don't like that. We want actual, videos. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm not a videographer. I don't want to be a videographer. I'm not going to force myself to change because this is what you currently want me to do. And it will change again in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever. I'm not going to change the thing that I make my living on just because this thing at the time tells me I should do. So I create some revenue if it's a project I'm really interested in. If it's, again, something that I'm genuinely wanting to talk about and have interest in, or like the people, like with your donut shop, you genuinely wanted to help those people because you could see that they were genuine about their products and the passion that they have. So the people that I kind of do those more collaborations with are, brands and people that I believe in and their products and their stories. So it's kind of not few and far between at all, but it's, I will always try and make sure that I'm doing the best I can in terms of photography. But because I'm not doing things like reels all the time, or I'm on TikTok, but I'm not particularly a TikToker, for example, because again, so all of it is so heavily weighted on moving image, on videos, rather than static imagery. I know that's not the entire case, but if you think about the last, I don't know, if you're scrolling on reels on TikTok, on Instagram, or on TikTok, you're not seeing that many posts that are pure static images. There might be the odd one that's like, oh, hey, I took a photo of this thing and here's my shot, or whatever it might be. And that might be 1 in 20 or something like that. It's not a thing. So at the minute, the way that I work in the style and my life and the way that I want to live is not weighted upon doing so much social media in terms of kind of making sure I'm nailing the likes, the follows and stuff. Like today I did a live unboxing of a toy, of a Hot Wheels toy that I got, which is really cool. Again,
I saw that.
I've just said, which is really cool. I knew what was coming, and I was like, I think this is gonna be really cool. So I was excited to do it. But if people kind of are like, I don't know, I'll pay you. Okay, I got offered to, I won't say the brand. I got offered to do a paid collaboration thing with a car wax company, and they're going to pay quite a lot. And I just thought, I don't even clean my car. My husband cleaned my car. This would be such a fake thing for me to do, even though it's the world that I am. I'm not going to be like, hey, this wax is so great. It's not me. And look, here's some great shots I took of me waxing. It's so fake from my point of view. Internally, right. I'm like, this feels fake. So it's, again, I've gone off on a tangent and I'm waffled, but it's something that I have as an addition to my, I suppose, my income, which is purely photography, rather than just, wanting to become more of a content creator. Also, takes so much time to create content and to post. And, as we discussed at the beginning, I've got a baby now. That takes a hell of a lot of my time. So if I want to have, look after my child, support my husband in his exceptionally busy job, and then also actually do the photography that I need to do to actually bring in our house bills. And I haven't really got time to then add an additional thing of trying to make 4 reels a week of something. I don't know. Maybe I'm an old woman. I don't know.
What would you credit your building of your audience to on Instagram? What would you say is like the key to having done that?
The time that I built the majority of my audience was probably when I consider Instagram to be at its peak, where people, things were being posted, you saw them in your chronological order, and it was purely about photographs. It wasn't anything to do with anything else. It wasn't TikTok came along, then Instagram got jealous and made reels. It was basically just great cars, great photography, and that's what I produced. I'd probably post, 3 times a week. And it was just whatever shooting I was doing at the time, or, a lot of throwbacks, because 3 shoots a week is quite a lot to keep on top of. From a workflow point of view, it can be. And so, it was just kind of a bit more like that. Not even particularly consistent. One day I might, 1 week I might post one thing. Another week, if I was doing something awesome, it'd be 3 or 4. But yeah, generally it's just kind of, I suppose, half consistency. I suppose it was consistency. Over the last, probably 2-3 years, it's just been so disheartening to put so much effort into creating something, and then for it to be seen by less than 10% of the people that follow you. And then you just think, well, why am I spending half an hour creating this thing? And then, there's an hour of my time now is, I mean, even before, but especially now is incredibly precious. Like if my child only sleeps for 36 minutes or something, and I've got to edit a shoot that I've done because my client who's actually paying me has got something, needs that work, or I've got to get the housework done or the laundry out or whatever, and that is my time to do it. To create an Instagram post is not on my agenda. And I suppose that's what I was saying about this level between I want to live, what do I value in life, versus how much work do I want to get, how much content do I want to create to get more work, or whatever it is. Like there is a balance. So when I've kind of created my audience that I have now, it was a lot. I think back when I feel, it's a silly thing to say, I feel Instagram was more genuine than it is now. But again, maybe it's just because I'm not moving with the times, but that's a me problem.
How has technology affected what you do now? Well, I guess we'll just roll AI into this question too. Are you using artificial intelligence in what you do? And I almost feel like I would imagine artificial intelligence is almost scrubbing your content to be able to learn from and create content in respect to it. I would think that on Midjourney, I could say in the style of and put your name, and that would actually be a referable reference. So how has technology affected you or what you do now?
So I use it because it's, especially when we're talking about, fixing in post, what used to take me, I don't know, say you're doing a rear tracking shot, car to car tracking shot of a car, and you're leaning out a passenger window of the tracking car. You've got to edit out. If you're on a narrow road, you're going to have to edit out a lot of, if you want some form of composition, a lot of the car that you're physically in. If you're trying to edit out the kind of the perspective lines of move a blurred road, that takes you ages. So you just got to be like, okay, well, I'll pick like the 3 best shots and do it to that. Now with AI, I'm like, whoop, get rid of that, done. So that in terms of kind of speeding up my workflow of the post-processing editing, fantastic. My dad uses AI a lot for exactly what you've said, and I help him because it's really good fun. He wants to paint these automotive, beautiful pictures, but won't have any form of reference to use to paint them. So he and I like go on to various AI things and like, hey, can you create a shot of early morning light in the Yorkshire Dales with a farmer, a Land Rover Defender, kind of give it like a 60s vibe, something like that, and out pops an image which looks great, not like a photograph, but great enough as a starting point to then create from his point of view, a painting. From my point of view as photography, you can use it to my advantage and to kind of get inspiration and ideas. But I'm not worried about it taking over my role, because I suppose if that's kind of a side thought process, because people, I don't think I'd want to have a fake photograph of my road trip that I actually did just because it looked better than the shots that we actually got, if that makes sense. It's people still want the story being documented in many, many things. And so I think there's definitely an area where it's 100% going to be used. And the same with when CGI came out. I guess you probably had the same question, like people saying, oh, do you think CGI is going to take over photography as a whole? And there's a space for it, but it's definitely not taken over as a whole. And the same with AI. I think there'll be a space for it, a whole new avenue of wicked, amazing AI artists that will create some beautiful things. But there'll be a space for it, but there'll still be a space for my work as well. Does that answer your question?
No, yeah, absolutely. Have you seen anything that you thought looked like your work that was, out there currently?
Not yet. And I'd be really, so I've not tried Midjourney. I've tried ChatGPT and the Google one. It's Gemini.
Yeah.
Go with that's it. Yeah. And they don't seem to so far understand it. There's some cool stuff that pops out, but it works better if I try to. It doesn't quite nail, especially like my edit, and the cars are never ever in the right position. Like it's always shot slightly too high. And however many times I give it the prompt, no, just make the car smaller in the frame. No, zoom out from the subject of the car. No, make the car insignificant. However way I try to teach AI to step away from the vehicle in its shot, it's like, you want it bigger? And I'm like, no, I don't. So I think at some point it'll catch on, it'll learn. And but I've not been able to make it produce, even with effort, of something that looks like my own work by saying in an Amy Shaw style or whatever it is. That makes me sound really, really like kind of egocentric and be like, oh, make it like me.
I've done it. It works,
It was more to test, as you said, like to think, is this something people could do and would be able to do? Because technically they're not ripping off my work. It's not something I produced. It's not, I do not own a style, it's not a copywritten style. If AI can do it, then yeah, they can. But I think there's going to be a lot of people that will pay more for the real thing. But maybe that's
I feel like every single job I've done, whether it's compositing or whether it's been shooting and your work has been referenced, it's literally been the signature lift the blacks. Like literally lift the blacks, lift the blacks, lift the blacks. We don't want 100% blacks. We want like Amy blacks. Yeah. So
but I mean, that's the thing. That's a very specific, like, I'm trying changing my blacks, and it doesn't look like my own work, and that's why I've kind of stuck consistent back to the beginning of our conversation. It's been consistent for so many years because I'm like, it doesn't feel like me, and it's such a stupid simple thing, but it's somehow they've got it.
You might, if you ever did 100% black, you'd probably shock the world. You'd probably like throw everything on its head. That would be, I would pay to see that.
Sometimes I do just like flick it down just to see. I'm like, oh no, put it back. So it's it just feels flat and boring personally in my style.
I think with that we'll do 10 questions.
It's time for
10 questions. Better yes or no, or what do you think?
10 questions.
You photographed everything from classic Jaguars to onion fields. What's the most unexpectedly fun shoot you've ever done?
Yeah. Oh, great question. Unexpectedly fun. I suppose I've done a couple of shoots where I've been flung around in little aeroplanes, and I didn't know how that was going to be, but at the same time that would probably be expectedly fun. I kind of knew that was going to be good fun. I tell you what, one shoot, I say that I've never shot in a studio. There was one shoot where I did it wasn't a studio shoot, it was like a dealership shoot. It was the actual thing was, talking about brief, it was we need to get a photograph of a client somebody holding a mobile phone. It's got to be an iPhone. Then we need to swap it out. It's got to be an Android phone. It was very, very, very boring. But the team were fantastic. And I think that's one of the things where on any shoot, you can have on paper, the most amazing shoot in the world. If the team are rubbish, you're going to have a crap time. Flip it around, you can have the most boring shoot in the world. If the team are great and you have such a laugh together, then you're going to have a fantastic time. And so, I've had some some amazing experiences, but I've been with team that have been maybe more challenging, and it's not been as fun. And then I've had shoots where there've been really simple things, and I'm like, we've become friends forever. So it's it's talking about unexpectedly fun. Probably the ones that are boring that end up being really good fun.
That's cool. What inspired you to focus so heavily on automotive and motorsport photography?
Because I think from a machine point of view, from a purely aesthetic point of view, I think cars are beautiful, classic cars. I think some modern cars are beautiful as well, but generally I think classic cars are beautiful. The pure shape, the way light falls on them, the way they've been designed, the details, they are, regulations were not anywhere near as strict as they are now in automotive design. I just think there's something about the beauty of the machine is something that I really enjoyed capturing, as well as the people around and the storytelling, and like anyone from the drivers to mechanics to owners, photographers as well. I think they are interesting. So I don't know, there's something about cars that I just kind of catch my attention, and motorcycles, but cars especially.
How has becoming a new mother influenced the way you approach your creative work and travel schedule? I assume maybe hanging out the back of a car, shooting images isn't your first thing you want to do on a shoot?
I still did that. I said that at 7.5 months pregnant. I actually, over the course of being pregnant, I didn't shout about it. I didn't tell people for quite a long time in the wider world. And also, I didn't tell clients I just showed up pregnant because I didn't want to be judged the ability that I couldn't do it, or that I wouldn't be able to do certain things because I was pregnant. And I thought, no, in my head, that's up to me to make that decision. And I know what the job is going to entail. So if I feel okay doing it, then you should be okay with me doing it. Like, insurances are all fine. We're good to go. Like, this shouldn't be a problem. So yeah, I was 7.5 months pregnant when I did my last car-to-car tracking shoot. So, which is, I think I probably would have done some more a bit later on but there wasn't a shoot that needed it, so I didn't. It's in terms of my travel schedule, to be honest, it depends on my mum and dad's travel schedule. They're now both retired and go on holiday a lot. So if they're struggling to look after my child, I have to really kind of think about the jobs that I take on. But so far, touch wood, there's not been anywhere that I've had to kind of like say, I'm really sorry, I can't do this. And with the help of my husband, William, and he's got some of his family as well, you kind of pass our son round like a hot potato to get looked after, because the thing is, we knew my job was always going to be this way. I was never going to change, really. There might be some shoots that if I don't think it's worth the payoff of time away, money earned, joy given to having to leave my son Ruben for that long, then I'd think about it. Whereas before I might be like, okay, I'll do it. But yeah, it's only been 6 months so far. I've only been back at work for 3, and it's been winter, so I've not had to worry too much about it just yet.
You've worked with some iconic clients: Jaguar, Land Rover, BMW, Goodwood. Do you have a dream brand or project you haven't tackled yet?
Probably the Mille Miglia. I would love to shoot the Mille Miglia. It's one of those events that you just think, from a visual point of view, driving, I don't know how many cars are in the Mille Miglia. Like, I'm going to guess about 80, 100, maybe more. Somebody will be shouting at their podcast right now, their radio, whatever, Spotify radio, say, "Hi, you idiot, it's this many." But, driving these cars, these incredible classic cars through Italy at hard as well, properly driving them, I think from a visual point of view, with all the crowds cheering, the architecture, the light, the cars, the racing bit side of it is actually to me the least interesting part. Everything else is the thing that I think would be exciting to watch. So that's probably on the bucket list that I've not yet managed to do.
Tell us the story behind your 85 mini road trip to the Shetland Islands. What made you say, "Yep, I'm doing this solo"?
Because about 6-7 years previously, I did a solo road trip around the Scotland's North Coast 500 road, which is a very famous road, and it's the best in the world ever. I absolutely love it. And I did a solo then because I just wanted to, and it was one of the best weeks of my life because I loved that I could stop whenever I wanted to take photographs. I'd listen to whatever music I wanted. I went to the pub to eat my dinner on my own, had a book, and it was glorious. It was a very selfish way to travel, and I absolutely loved it. And I probably, especially now, wouldn't be able to do that now that I've got my son as well. So it is I'm so glad I did it. And so the idea of kind of doing London to the Shetland Islands on my own, I thought this is probably, I'd broken up from quite a big relationship, and I just met my husband, my now husband. And I thought, if I don't do this now, then I'm not ever going to be able to do this. So I could have probably gone further, but it was over COVID, so there was the travel was a bit of an issue. So I was like, right, if I can sell this as a story to a magazine, then it's working, and I can legitimately go and do this trip. So that's what I did. And it was it was fabulous. Not quite the same kind of high as I got when doing the North Coast 500 for the first time, but definitely something I'm really pleased that I did.
How does your role as a co-host on the Driven podcast inform your photography, or vice versa?
It doesn't really inform photography at all. It's more out of, we just chat a load of rubbish about cars and whatever's going on in the car world. And so the chap that I've been doing it with from the beginning, John Marcar, is a superb host. He's very, very, he would be what I would consider as the kind of the new Jeremy Clarkson, and even the way he delivers is, kind of the way he talks. And he's just getting into racing himself. He's about to be in a big Ferrari, I want to say the Ferrari Challenge. He's definitely going to tell me off for that. Big Ferrari racing. And so in terms of kind of how it affects the photography, not really. But what's really nice for me is that all these conversations I have with people when I'm on the job, being as a photographer, I now get to go and do those, but record them and have other people listen to them. So these are conversations that I would genuinely have with people anyway, but now we get to record them and kind of show the world more what these people are doing, because there are some fantastic stories that just haven't been told really. I mean, I'm getting the visual aspect of it, and videos aren't going to be made for every single thing. So podcasts, I think in the last 10 years have really shot off. So yeah, it's a delight to be able to start being able to tell these stories. So yeah, the amount of people I've said to John, I'm like, oh, I shot this person one year, we could definitely do then. Oh, this person I shot had a great story. It's been a lot of that as well.
What's one of the biggest challenges you faced as a woman working in the automotive space, and how have you overcome it?
People don't think you're as good as you are until they've seen your work. So it was more of an issue when I first started out, before I kind of got the social media following and people knew who I, what my work was like. Just daft things like, is this your full-time job? And I'll be like, yeah. And in my head I think, I don't know if you'd ask me that if I was a bloke. Maybe you would, I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking this myself. And kind of people I think were more ageist than sexist in the industry. Okay. So it was more of a case of, I was very young when I started, and the car world, especially the classic car world, is quite an older generation industry. And so when you kind of first start out, especially when I showed up to an event and I had like one camera, 2 prime lenses, I didn't have any big zoom things or anything like that. I still don't. And to kind of go at it and be like, yeah, I guess I'll just shoot what I think looks good and we'll see what happens. It took people until they saw the results of my work to be able to then be like, oh no, you're all right, you are. And then I kind of like, I get, that's, I suppose another reason, go back to the kind of the social media chat, that's how it ended up kind of blowing up as much as it did, because it really has snowballed initially, because I think it was almost a surprise, like, hey, this British girl actually can take pictures of cars. And it was nice to be underestimated and then kind of prove them wrong, I guess.
So what role does networking play in your business and what you do?
Huge thing is networking. Like going to the Bahrain Formula One this weekend. I'm going for fun as a guest, but I'm constantly going to make sure that I'm going to just, I suppose networking is not the thought process of how can you get me work or how can you hire me. It is more out of, this person is interesting, I want to keep in touch with this person because I think they're cool. And then if something comes where we can work together in the future, or they've got someone that can work with each other, then that's great. But I think networking is all about purely genuine connections and being interested in other people and them being interested in you. I struggle a bit with like LinkedIn, even though I get work through LinkedIn, and it's very proper. It's like we are networking. And that's a great way of networking. And then the other way of networking is when you're sat having your second whiskey of the evening after dinner with this bloke that you've just met from this brand, and you're like, oh, hey, you're cool, you work for that brand. Yeah, but my husband likes this brand. You kind of chat away, and then that is networking. You don't mean it to be. You're interested in them, they're interested in you, and you're having a nice time. And then if you can you get on, and then you think, okay, well, let's maybe work with each other in the future. And but you have no expectations of if that's going to be a thing or not. You're not going to be like, hey, here's my card. It's just a lot more well, at least from the way I try to network, a lot more genuine. But it is ever so important, because the automotive world, as I'm sure you know, is very, very small. Even though it's kind of big in terms of money, it's actually very small in industry, and everybody knows everybody. So it's you tend to kind of make friends. You're never more than like 1-2 connections apart from somebody else, which is really cool. But it's a really important thing. And it's a bit worrying, because I'm starting to get more kind of introverted the older I get. So I have to remind myself to go and speak to people.
Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. I mean, now that I have kids and like, I like talking to them, last thing I want to do is like deal with somebody who has crazy ideas and is going to change their mind later. Cause it just reminds me of my kids and then I'm done with it.
Yeah. Well, at the minute I only have a child that is a one-way conversation from me. So by the time I've done, I'm like, I've spoken way too much now. So
What are 5 must-haves in your camera bag?
35 mil, a nickel 35 mil 1.4 lens, nickel 50 mil 1.2, a hold fast harness, because that's what I use, or at least a hold fast, like camera strap. I've used their products for years. That's 3. What's another one? Polarizing filters, because definitely needed for car photography. And a hairbrush, because when you're doing car-to-car tracking, when you've got long hair, you come out afterwards looking a bit like you've been dragged through a hedge backwards. So yeah, that would be my. Oh, other than your camera, obviously. So like I'd say I've got a Nikon Z9, which is currently the thing filming me. So they would be my things.
That's cool. Do you find it hard balancing the business side of photography with the creative? How do you manage both?
Yes, because sometimes you have to have really difficult conversations with customers. Either it is something along the lines of your expectations are too high and I think you're going to be disappointed, or hey, your invoice is like 4 months outstanding, you need to pay me now. Like kind of those kind of conversations. The way that I manage them is either kind of just with firm but gentle emails, or I have a virtual PA called Sarah, and she's fantastic. So by having a middle person between me and my own client means that she can be the bad guy for me. Cool. Like, this is the situation we have. She'll say, hey, I've noticed that this invoice has not been paid yet. Do you want me to go and chase him a bit? I'm like, yes, please. Because it means I'm not ruining that relationship with my client by saying, hey, you need to pay me now kind of attitude. She can be the one to do that for me. And then, the next time I see my client, it's all lovely because I've not had to be the one that's kind of like made that a difficult situation or whatever it might be. So definitely using a middle person, for example Sarah in my case, is very helpful. I only have her for like, I think it's 2 hours a week, not even that anymore, an hour and a half a week. I feel like I've got her full time. She's fantastic. Amazing. She gets to the point.
Great idea. 10 questions. Knowing what you know now with all your experience, what advice would you have given your younger self? It's really hard because any advice that I'd give might have adjusted the kind of the way that I worked or whatever. So I could say, hey, you should have more confidence in yourself. But if I did say that to my younger self and then she became really arrogant, she might not be able to get the jobs that the network have got them now. So I think just trusting that it is hard work being self-employed, but just trusting that the jobs always come. And over the 12 years I've been doing this, you have waves, and you always over the year you have waves. And I think trusting that, like, being freelance is really scary, but also the absolute best job in the world. I would think I really struggle to be hired now by somebody and having a boss. I don't think I could do it. I need to stay self-employed. So that's probably what I would say to my younger self, is that it's really scary, but it's the best thing ever. What advice would you have for somebody looking to get into being an automotive photographer or a photographer?
You've got to be able to work until you feel like your head's going to explode. That's the first thing. I think the thing is as long as you like what you're producing, that is the main thing. The second you're trying to produce something that you think other people will like, or because it looks like stuff that other people like, then you're already starting off on a back foot. Like you need to be doing, as long as you enjoy what you're doing, then you're winning, basically. In terms of kind of the financial side of things, I was very, very lucky. I turned poor graduate living in this house, my parents' house, to poor photographer living in this house with my parents. So from a financial point, I didn't have to worry at the time. Like, my mum charged me something like 20 quid a week board. My parents' support was fantastic from the word go. But if you have like a full-time proper job where you're on 30, 40, 50, 60,000 more, pounds a year, to then be like, I'm going to be a photographer, that's a scary jump. Like I would personally, again, as the first thing I said, push until your head feels like it's going to explode, and then just drop something of the work that, and try and tip the scales really slowly. So yeah, but as long as you're primarily shooting what you want to shoot and how you want to shoot it, that's the main thing.
It's actually pretty good advice. So
I hope so.
where could people find you in terms of where do you live online? Where can people see your work?
So I mostly post on Instagram. So I am at Amy Shaw Photography, which is, you have to spell my name right because Shaw's not spelled the normal way. So I'm like the seashore. That's how I describe it. And then if you're a Facebook person, I'm on Facebook, which is, I think I'm just, again, Amy Shaw Photography. I am Amy Shaw Photography everywhere. If you Google Amy Shaw Photography, that's where you'll find me. I am on TikTok, but I will disappoint you, so there's no point following me on there. So, if you want to see my work, it's mainly Instagram. That's kind of like my go-to diary of images and portfolio of images.
Thank you so much for your time. I know it is extremely valuable as a new mother, so I'm so grateful.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's been an absolute joy.
Of course, thank you. That's a wrap.
Just fix it in post.